I'm Annalee Davis, and this is White Creole Conversations, new ways of thinking about whiteness in a Caribbean context. And today I'm with Nadja Willis here in Barbados at the Fresh Milk Art Platform. So Nadja, thank you so much for being willing to participate in this project. What I want to ask you to do first is to maybe define yourself in terms of race, and to ask whether you identify with the term white Creole at all.
So, Annalee, thank you for having me. Thank you for asking my opinions on these things. Let me see, how do I define myself in terms of race, class, and nationality? I would say that I am a Caribbean person of British nationality, but I think therein lies my the gamut of how I think of myself, because in truth and in fact, I find myself to be just very proud of being a Caribbean person. So my passport says British. I guess as a race, I would be Creole. I would say that the colour that I have come out puts me as a white Creole. But really, the question really is, what am I?
So you're not only British, because you have you also have Caribbean parentage.
Absolutely. My mum is Barbadian and my dad is British.
And then there's a Guyanese
connection. Well, we grew up in
Guyana.
My brother is Guyanese.
Right.
But I grew up in Guyana up until the age of about 11. So my formative years were in South America, which certainly gives me a whole different take on the word Caribbean to living here in Barbados. And fundamentally for me, I think that from the point of view of Barbadian society was my saving grace, because my experience of Guyana, and certainly as a child, there is actually no differentiation between race. It's just this lovely melange of every colour, every creed, every language. And Guyana is known as, I believe, the seven nations, or the seven people, the land of the seven peoples. So, and at school, there was no differentiation. There weren't white schools, black schools, Chinese schools, Amerindian schools. It was just this huge melange of friends.
Right. Okay. And now that you're living in Barbados and you've been back here for a number of years, do you find yourself thinking about race in general or about whiteness at all since your relocation back some years ago?
The truth is, I can't say I think about certainly when I first moved home, I can't honestly say I ever had thoughts of whiteness. It was not a topic in our home. There was not any reference to colour. Having grown up in Guyana, there was just this richness of friends, and my interest was more in the person. And certainly, if they were black, their heritage. If they were Chinese, their heritage. If they were Amerindian, their heritage. However, it wasn't a noticing of, oh my gracious me, that person is this color or that color. For me, it was this richness of culture.
Okay.
Having moved back home, I realized, even at a young age, through experiences I would have had at early school, that there was a big difference, and it was noticed. However, even inside of that, with the question you've asked me, I still didn't understand what was happening because I did not consider myself a color.
Right.
So I couldn't say I was affiliated. My friends still were a huge melange of colors, so I couldn't say, oh my gracious me, this is what I am, or that is what I am, or I am white, because as I say, I could have come out any color, really. Right. I could have, my hair could have been anything, my skin could have been anything. Another child later, I could have been another look, so.
Okay. So I guess then, one of the questions I have here is talking about whether we're a post-racial society. Can we escape race in the Barbadian society? Does that seem even like something we should work towards?
This question I love, Annalee, because I need to see how I can speak about this. In Barbados, I actually don't think we can escape race. I think because the whole focus in Barbados is about race. And I quite frankly think that the entire focus in Barbados is about black and white. There seems to be no in between, and so you're either black or you are white. So if you're Indian, you are black. If you're half Indian, you're black. If you are mixed white and black and you come out high brown, as they say in Barbados, because we have all these different terminologies, you are black. It seems as if unless your skin is fair and you are straight-haired, you are then white. And so everything that happens in the Barbadian society that I have experienced is very much about black and white.
Right.
And the question you asked, another question about, do I think that we can escape it? I think that runs so deeply now. I'm not sure that we even know that we can't, or we know that we can try not to, because it is so deep that you are aware in Barbadian society that when they meet you, they are grading you. Mm-hmm. So if you are high brown, they've graded you. They've graded you to where you live, where they think you live, how much you have in your bank account, if they can use you or not use you, can you get them into certain places. And I think we even see that on our beaches where, if you have come out fair, you are spoken of as the white woman, and guaranteed you're going to know that the guy on the beach is going to be attracted to you, not because he's attracted to anything on you, but because he believes that you either have a passport that he can have, or a house he can stay in, or you can take him to nice places. Mm-hmm. He is not looking for what he can actually give to you or that you can share. He is seeing it as that whole plantation connection again.
Right.
Which, in all honesty, I use that plantation terminology. I don't think that is the terminology is going on in their head, but I think it is a throw off of our history. And I think you see it in every possible arena. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, Black Barbados is very keen to be black. White Barbados almost hides himself away in their enclaves, which you know where they are, and yet there seems to be this fight, this constant sort of fight, and a very
clearly drawn line.
And yet, Black Barbados, in all of their focus to be black, are still craving much of the whiteness in Barbados, much of their lifestyles, their hair, their look, their expressions. And the question really remains, why is that? Because it's the same whiteness that they really are trying to move away from.
Right.
So I use this example because this is not something that I experienced when I grew up in Guyana, because the Amerindians just want to be Amerindian. They want to share with you like the Banab and their building without nails, and the Chinese are going to share with you their cooking and their calculus and their, and the black race will show you their culture and their, kwekways and things like that. And then what is White Guyana? White Guyana is a melange of all of those things, mm-hmm. and possibly some of the plantation owners. Mm-hmm. It's a much larger space. Mm-hmm. But here it is very much... we are still fighting a big white elephant that nobody really wants to speak about, mm-hmm. and really needs to be spoken about. And so hence this project is fantastic, because it really, for everything it's going to bring up, it really allows both sides to hear stuff and to be able to say, okay, never saw it from that point of view.
Right.
Never understood it from that point of view. Maybe I can ask this question. Maybe I can't ask that mm-hmm. question. And so on and so forth.
Okay. So then I want to ask if you can talk about one of the most difficult conversations you've ever had around race.
To be very honest with you, I have to say, me personally, there haven't been that many. But I do have a memory of coming, when I first moved from Guyana here, and in my English literature class, I remember that I was asked to describe, we were doing a year in San Fernando, and I was asked to describe by my black English literature teacher the colour of the boy in the book. And I said that it was a coloured boy. And in that moment, she picked me up and was, brought all the attention to me. And she said to me, "What are the colour of the beads around my neck?" And I said, "They're coloured beads." She said, "Good. Is that boy coloured?" And I said, no. She said, then what color is he? And I was very clear at that young age that she wanted me to say he was a black boy. So it was clear to me then that in that moment I was very uncomfortable because I was very young, and I had just come from Guyana where there wasn't this intensity on color, and she was marking me out, and I got that. I got that it was not okay to say he was colored. I got that it was important to say that he was black, and I got that it was important to say he was black because it was very meaningful for her, and so it was almost so meaningful that she needed to embarrass me.
Right.
And put me into, and so for me that was very difficult because I had been trained, I guess, to say colored having come from Guyana because it could be any melange, any mixture. But for me that was really, that I can speak about, the most uncomfortable because I felt then that calling somebody black was just like pointing them out, and I just thought it was unnecessary. I didn't see that it was so important to give this young character. I'm sure he was a black guy, but he was a Trinidadian black, so he may have been a little Indian or something. But for her, it was very important.
Very important.
And I was young, so it was clear that she wanted me to. It was very clear she was making a point. And so I would say for me that was really the most uncomfortable. Since then, as a child, you then learn very quickly, and I realized, okay, I need to get comfortable with saying that somebody's black, white, or in between because it is necessary in Barbados. It is what is requested.
Right. Okay.
And so that was a learning curve.
Would you say that you've crossed boundaries in race or class? And when I ask that question, I'm talking about whether outside of like a professional engagement, whether we're open to loving somebody of another race, or whether we're open to families or members of our family loving somebody of another race.
So for me, I have never had a problem crossing boundaries because I have never seen them as boundaries. I've never had a boundary to cross. I am a mixed child. I am a Creole child. I have always enjoyed people in any space, class, race. And so I believe that a lot of the time I bound in without even being aware that they may have a boundary for me to cross. And so it's not something that I have ever really thought about or even think about on a day-to-day basis. My real interest is in the person. As regards loving somebody, absolutely, I can do that very easily. I have, if your spirit takes mine, you can be purple. It's not something that is going to be, for me, an issue on any level.
So you would say that you socialize in a kind of a diverse circle of friends.
I don't only socialize in a diverse circle of friends. I love it.
Right.
It is what I need to survive. It is what I need to understand myself because my interest is in the person, is in what they do, is in who they are, is in what is their mix, where they come from, how does your mother cook, how does she sew, what does your dad do, why does he do that? That's my interest. And quite frankly, if your skin is a little orange, I'm very excited because I get to ask another question. I'm like, well, why are you orange?
Well, I asked that question because I think in Barbados it's still possible in social environments to go to a wedding, for example, that is exclusively white or exclusively black. And so yes. I wonder how conscious we are when we consider making relationships outside of our work environment, because the work environment tends to be quite integrated. So how conscious we are when we think about making friends. Is it something that we think of? Because I think some people don't even realize how unconscious those relationships.
Well, I like that question, and I would like to answer that in a little bit of a roundabout way, in that, again, as regards me, I have experienced those things very rarely because I try to keep myself very, very much away from those isolated incidences where you're going to end up in an all white or all black or all Indian. I unless it's like an Indian wedding, which you're getting to experience something, or a kwe where I love, again, that melange. However, I do have a client that shared some with me, and it was a very honest sharing, and I really appreciated it because I got that there is a part of white Barbados that actually doesn't understand that anything else goes on except their whiteness. So what she said to me was she is a white Barbadian, has married a Scottish gentleman. He is the one that pointed out to her what the hell goes on here because it's not right. And she couldn't quite understand what he was saying because he was looking at it from a bird's eye point of view from outside of the Barbados environment. And she said, Nadja, I went away and I had a think about it, and I realized I only have white friends. I only socialize with white friends. I only go to white parties. I only have been employed by white people. She says, and yes, I know that they are black Barbadians. I just have none. I have no black Barbadians in my life, not in work, not in life, not in friends, not in our neighborhood, And I thought to myself, she spoke with absolute humility. She spoke with absolute openness and honesty. And I thought, my gosh, it was amazing to experience that because she only did because her white Scottish husband was able to see that. So again, she even married white, but it was from an outsider that saw this.
So then that leads to the next question, which is how do you see yourself in terms of the larger social, political, or national landscape? Because she sees herself, I guess, unconsciously, maybe, in a very particular context. I mean, do you think about how you fit into the larger national space?
Annalee, I think that I have always just seen myself as a Caribbean person, literally, in general. And I mean just a Caribbean person, whatever that is. And I think that what I'm trying to say here is I feel that wherever we've been brought and put here, we've been brought and put here. And I believe that where we are now is very important because whichever way you turn it, toss it, put it, we are Caribbean people, whatever color we are, black, blue, in between. So it's up to us to decide now, what is our music, what is our heritage, what is our culture, what is our food, what is our dress, what lives we live in, what do our houses look like, and not run around still imitating the cultures that put us here. I think we need to stop discussing those. Actually, as history, I think that's very important. However, I think we are Caribbean people. We can't scrape off our skin. We can't pull out our hair. There's nothing we can do. We are here. And we live actually in paradise. And we are very, very fortunate here in this little island. And I just think it's time that, obviously it's not going to happen overnight. And it's not okay just to say it's time. But we are at a stage now where we need to figure out what does that mean to be a Caribbean person, whatever that entails, whatever our hair looks like, whatever our skin looks like, whatever our bodies look like. We need to figure that out. We need to figure out where are we going? How are we going to move forward as people? Because nobody ain't taking us off this rock. Do you know? We're here. We're going to stay here. And we're a bunch of very intelligent, motivated, activated, evolving people. So I think it's time. The role I play in that, I can only again say that I'm just excited at being this Caribbean person in an evolving part of the world that actually we're not locked down to anything. We have been thrown somewhere and practically the key has been thrown away. So it's like, do whatever you all want to do. Do what you want. And it's up to us now to think, okay, great, we can do that. But what does that mean? How are we going to do that?
Yeah.
And that's, however that shows itself in our society is however I will integrate into that role.
Okay. So one of the questions I like asking is if you have had experiences around privilege. So even though you're a mixed person or a Creole, you could be red-white in some spaces. And do you feel as though you have experienced privilege as a result of how you look?
As a result of how I look,
or how you're
the
seen?
Privilege of my birth?
No, I'm not thinking about privilege in terms of being a middle-class person, but I'm thinking, sometimes depending on how we look, there's this idea that some people can pass for being white. even though you're mixed. And of course, there are a lot of variabilities around race. So you can be read, like in Barbados, I'm read as white, but anywhere else in the world, I'm read as Hispanic or mixed.
Absolutely.
But I have experienced privilege because of how I look and how I'm perceived here. I mean, is that something that you can relate to at all, or not really?
Annalee, the truth is, if I haven't noticed it, because I do not go in with I do not have an idea of color, so I do not go in with an expectation. So I have put myself in all sorts of situations and just had an expectation that I would get it because I want it. My heart is there. I do not go in with, oh my gosh, this is going to help me because I am this, or this is going to help me because I am that. I can't say that. I am sure it has occurred because that is exactly how our environment in Barbados is set up. However, I cannot say that I have ever once left anything saying, yeah, you got that because you were white, or you got that because you were... Can't say that.
Okay.
I can't say that honestly.
Okay.
But it is possible. It's just I have never been in with that expectation, so I come up with the excitement. Wow, I got that, and look what we're going to do.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Are there any humorous experiences that you've had around race that you can think of that you can share?
The only one was the only one I can really say that I can remember is when we were very young, my brother and I, my mum, who is Barbadians would call mulatto, would have been with us at a fair or something, and people would have immediately thought that she was the nanny because we actually look very much like our father.
Who's a white Englishman.
A white Englishman.
Right.
And the truth is, so she is on more than one occasion been thought of as the nanny when we were younger. The only other thing I can say, which I thought was quite funny, was when my brother was getting married. And my sister-in-law had some of her friends come in, and they had only ever known my brother and my sister-in-law. And when my sister-in-law's friend's husband saw my mother for the first time, apparently he went home to his wife and said, "Oh my God, Kevin's mother is a lady of colour." And I thought that was just hysterical because obviously in his look,
yeah,
it wasn't.
It doesn't betray that fact.
No, and the truth is, this is a Canadian gentleman, and so I smiled at that. I thought to myself, I was shocked at even the statement, but I thought to myself, oh, that's interesting that you even had a concept of,
right,
of you know.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't really say that I could think of anything on the.
Well, my last question is I'm going to ask. Is what you think Barbadian society looks like in racial terms ideally? Because, it's one thing to think back and to look at our history, but I'm kind of thinking about what are our ideals? How do we envision a more kind of equal space in terms of race relations? I mean, is that something that you think about? Is that something that you work towards? Or?
Annalee, I think the pendulum has to swing, because if I was honest, I would have to say, as quickly as I possibly can, that, as far as I am concerned, slavery dehumanized the black race. We're not speaking about the Irish slaves that came before them, because they were even lower than the black slaves. But it is a whole many centuries of dehumanization. So I would say that it is like being an orphan child. If you're an orphan, you really, really, really want to know who your parents are. And so I think that is something that all of the Caribbean is going through, and I think it is very necessary. In that process, we here in Barbados are quickly throwing off our British heritage, because that is seen to have been the black space of, when I say black space, I don't mean colour, I mean the horrible time of our history and evolution. And we are very rapidly embracing an American way of life, which in my opinion, really is a way that doesn't have much in the line of a culture or much to offer us from the point of view of values. When I say that, I mean things like, it's the land of the wealthy. The bigger the cars, the bigger the this, the bigger the that. When you look to Europe, you see they have a different way of looking at things. You spend what you have. You build within your means. You live within your means. The whole credit card concept. However, I'm saying this to say that we want to throw off the British because those were the people that enslaved us, and we are quickly embracing a culture that is actually going to destroy us. And yet, at the same time, the pendulum has to swing because everybody is entitled to find their own balance.
Mm-hmm.
Where that's going to go, I have no idea, but everybody has a right to find their own balance. And because the Black nation was so dehumanized, that could be a while before the pendulum swings all the way up and comes back so that we find a balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't, you can't actually say when that's going to happen, and you can't stop it because they have an entitlement. Mm-hmm. They have a right to be angry, to be upset, to want something, to get it wrong, to get it right. Mm-hmm. I can only say this also as an example from when I went to South Africa just after apartheid, and Black young men were angry, and white South Africa was saying, be very careful of Black South Africa, Johannesburg in particular. And I remember thinking, as a West Indian woman, thinking, my God, I'm a mulatto, like, who am I listening to, the white South Africans or the Black South Africans? But I understood, when you went into those shanty towns and you realized they have nothing, absolutely nothing, Annalee, nothing, miles of nothing, rubbish. And then you have white South Africa that has everything. And you really are so clear that the pendulum has to swing because they have to come out, they have to deal with that anger, they have to do something with it, they have to move forward, they have to experience life, they have to... Mm-hmm. We're a little further forward because we had slavery, which I would have looked like apartheid, but seemingly we were out of apartheid and moving forward, perhaps slowly, but we are still in that pendulum swinging.
Right.
And whilst I think Mandela did it beautifully, and because he could have had a complete bloodbath in South Africa, and maybe he brought them out quicker, and the pendulum took a little less longer to swing. Mm-hmm. I think because our history has taken so long, this pendulum really has to find its way and create a balance. So, you can't actually say to anybody, we can't give you that time, because if you're saying that you're a white person, you then have to say, we took it away from you, so we need to give you the time to. And if you're saying you're a Creole, then what are you saying? Yeah. Like, what side are you on? What side are you? This is my point. What side, as a Creole, where are you? What side are you on? So therefore, those that are in that melange need to be looking at, I'm a Caribbean person. What does that mean?
Right.
Is there a side? Should I be on a side?
Yeah.
Is it necessary for me to be on a side? Mm-hmm. Or do we have this richness of structure and an amazing island to live on that we really could be beginning to pull down the walls and seeing how we could, sort of have this integration that brings everything we know, because our brains don't change. Mm-hmm. Our feelings don't change. Our hearts don't change. All those things are the same no matter what you do. When you pull all those colors off, the blood is the same color. The nervous system is the same color. Mm-hmm. The heart beats the same way. The love is exactly the same. The hurt is exactly the same. Mm-hmm. So, I think we need to be asking ourselves, if you end up in that Creole scenario, no matter how you come out, because you could be fairer like I am or a little darker like my mum is, like what? Because my mum would be Creole as well. She'd be from two Creole parents, but what Barbados would call high brown. Mm-hmm. I was a high brown white mix that came out looking white.
Right.
So what side do I put myself on?
Yeah.
Do I want to be with white Barbados? Do I want to be with Black Barbados? Or do I just want to be a Caribbean woman that can access all of those different spaces and love them and enjoy them and grow with them?
Right.
Because each one of those, Annalee, has something to offer, something from their own heritage to offer.
Yeah.
Just like I experienced in Guyana.
Okay.
Do you know? It's
Good.
so...
Okay. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add? We're good?
No, I think that
Well,
is.
thank you so much for contributing to the project.
I think, I just want to end with the fact that, Annalee, I feel very proud of being a Caribbean woman, and that does not take away from my Britishness. It does not. I have lived in my father's country as long as I've lived in my mother's country, and therefore, who am I, really? Who am I? Am I British? Am I Barbadian? But I am very proud of being a Barbadian. Good. And being a Caribbean woman. I think it's I think it's very special.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much.